Today is the big day. The 41 Fleet line is getting all prettied up for her big photo shoot with Wheel Hub magazine, and she's not even wearing any paint. You really can't even walk into the front of Troy's shop without seeing some of the most one-of-a-kind works of art. Whether there is old creations coming back for a quick checkup or somebody else's hot rod coming in for some modifications, it's hard not to catch yourself staring. Even something like the Mariani Streamliner, which is designed solely to break records, it's so beautiful to look at. Today, this 30-some-odd foot beast is getting a new paint job, and Warren just picked it up with one hand. Alright, so it's not the actual Streamliner, but it is an exact scale model of it. The Marianis decided they want a model of this car to display at their house on the mantelpiece, but the problem's going to be figuring out which one of them gets to keep it. Troy was saying you might have another one of these you got to do?
Yeah, sounds like I got to do one more of these, just like this one.
So Troy had the actual car laser scanned and then 3D printed, and now Warren gets the privilege of recreating the exact paint job on this tiny version. That's a heck of a toy.
Honey, I shrunk the Streamliner.
The fact is, even the smallest jobs get the same attention to detail and the scrutiny to perfection that the big projects do. Speaking of which, there's a pretty big project going on right now. While we're chasing perfection, let's go see the 41 in the buff. Everyone's efforts are now shifted to Rydell's 41 Fleet line. They're expecting someone from Wheel Hub magazine. He's going to be doing a photo feature of this insanely technologically advanced hot rod, and she's running out of time to put on her face. There's a dual purpose to this. The magazine gets the benefit of seeing the car as close to finished as possible, and the guys get to make sure that every part fits before it goes to paint. So the guys are working their tail off to make sure she's looking her best when he shows up.
This is Adam's drawing. That's
okay, so it's...
The only problem is making it 3D.
Rather than try to use the original stamped stainless steel trim, Troy put Lawrence to work building new trim on the CNC machine, which he designed on what could be the world's slowest computer. Old Trusty here. You know, they make these in the size of a Diet Coke can now. I'm gonna quit talking.
What the hell is it doing?
I heard something happen in here.
Yeah, it overloaded. It overloaded.
And this is where the magic happens. Not only is the CNC machine going to give them the ability to create trim that better matches the aesthetic of the rebuilt 41, it's also going to give them the ability to make trim that's nearly flawless. The CNC machine is a computer-controlled robot of sorts that can grab several different cutters and actually whittle just about anything you can imagine out of a solid block of metal. And this is the outcome. As perfect as they look, the CNC machine does leave its signature on the pieces in the way of a toolpath. And that's where this guy comes in. No, he's not in a timeout, but he is a victim of his own competence. This guy is so good at sanding to perfection that he does spend a lot of time in his own special corner. Meet Moose. It's, of course, one of the parts everybody's going to take for granted is they don't know. They haven't sat next to you for 14, 15, 16 hours a day while you sand metal.
Yeah, it's not that glamorous. The first time you do it, you don't want to be good at it, or that's what you get to do all the time.
Trust me, you're going to be hard-pressed to find someone anywhere else in the world with such an eye for detail. Each piece of trim is sanded and polished to excellence with the sanding shims and tools that Moose has made for himself over the years. When it comes to the trim going down the side and like all the hood trim, you got to sand all those intricacies, right? Like all the little vents and scoops and lines. And
the machine can't reach all the way down in there either, so like the hood trim, the side pieces of that was a lot of hand filing and sanding down in there to get to finish the path that the machine can't reach.
Did you already go after the hood trim, son?
I already did those, yeah.
Okay. I feel like a dick for asking now. I didn't look at it that close.
Bash my work.
All right, now it's time to move on. Every time Moose turns his head is an opportunity for one of the guys to sneak one of his hand-sanded pieces of trim off and then fit it to the car. But not all of the trim is made on the CNC machine. Adam is working on a very tricky lower grill piece. Tricky because it's made of pot metal.
I'm gonna see how well this stuff welds, and if it's just too porous, I won't do it this way. I'll just make a cap on there, and it'll have a little parting line, and nobody will be the wiser that I couldn't do it.
They will if we have something to say about it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we'll broadcast that, buddy. Yeah.
To borrow a quote from Adam, welding pot metal is a lot like welding butter.
And like I said, there's no flux or anything. You just gotta kind of stick it on there when it'll stick.
Yeah. Well, you don't have any indicators like a color change or anything else.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. The only indicator is when it falls on the floor.
There are a lot of subtle changes to this old fleet line that'll really add up to give this car a very unique look. So there's been a lot of work that's happened on this car since the last time we were up here, but one of the things that's less obvious that I want to point out, so you can get an idea of just, the amount of work that went on in the front of this car, is the front script here. So these letters are actually off of a more modern vehicle, so they match the trim and the overall design of the car better, but still has the Chevrolet font and script on the front of the hood here. Some of the letters they actually had to have made so they'd match the peak of the hood. And actually, like the O for the Chevrolet was a little bit too ovate before. Now it's squared off a little, so it looks nice. But before, this had an area where this thing was actually just an intermediate piece between the hood and the grille. You can actually see where the peak of the grille used to land on here, which leads us to another issue. You can see that this actually has more of a pronounced bulbous peak in it that was kind of a lazy shape compared to what they have going on with the rest of the car. It looks more streamlined now. They're actually going to have to fill that in on the pot metal surrounding the grille, which is a big challenge, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But otherwise, just consider how much further the front of the car was moved up. This really demonstrates that. And you can see where the hood has its new home, and even how these shapes have been modified and streamlined to really make it completely a different car. But if you didn't know a 41 Chevy, without this sitting next to the stock one and all this explanation of all the work that's been done, you just wouldn't know. But man, this thing looks like a speeding bullet the way it sits. It's very cool. But all that's in part to dropping priceless parts. Even though the trim wasn't quite finished, they had to get the car off the frame table to access some more work. So the steering shaft was hooked up, the body mounts were welded permanently, the wheels were put on. Now it's ready to be transferred to the lift.
I don't even think we need anything in there, do you, Uncle?
Can you weld it?
I don't know.
Yeah, we can drop it.
I know you like to risk it.
I don't care. We can put something in there.
And don't forget the wheel covers. Then they rolled it back to get going on the trim again. Well, since I have the luxury of pretty much just standing around in the shop and observing these guys, I noticed that when it came to the trim, they were playing with a straight edge, and it occurred to me that this isn't just as simple as taking a flat piece of trim from the CNC machine and bending it over a log until it fits the car. There's actually a lot that goes into this, because if you picture a globe, well, putting a piece of trim around the equator may be one thing, but as you start to go north or south of it, and you look at the other parts of the globe where it starts to curve away like this car does because it bends in every direction, the backside of the trim may never touch the face of the car, so to speak, or the body. It won't lay on it. And that's one of the challenges that they have to face. It's very much a reality for them, is that the trim can't be flat anywhere. So it's helical. So if you eyeball this thing and you look down it, it's not flat. But once it goes on the side of the car, it's as straight as an arrow. Kind of a trip, but it definitely has a smile to it. How do you approach something like that?
Well, I mean, you start just by kind of eyeballing it. There was a factory piece of trim that was fairly similar to what we're doing now, but what we're trying to do is have the trim follow the belt line at a even distance from the front of the car to the rear. So it kind of starts by just making a bunch of tick marks coming down from the belt line, and then after I make little Sharpie marks every inch or so, get a piece of green tape, start at the front, and then just kind of sight down it and pull it back and get a what looks like a straight line, even though, as you just pointed out, it's not. And then just start at one end and start making adjustments until it finally fits snug and you don't see any light lines behind it, or make sure it doesn't rock.
Now, Rick, does the tape have to be green?
It does not have to be green. Actually, I have a little bit of blue here just because I wanted to really highlight this line, and the contrast really helps, you know.
Well, those two colors together, they're not appealing. While functional,
Yeah.
they're kind of off-putting.
I guess so. I mean, I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
That's
so,
right.
yeah.
That's right. I got you to break. That's what matters to me. Well, thanks for the insight, man. That is cool. While the work continued, a very important guest was arriving. The co-star of the big Wheel Hub magazine shoot. She's another 41 Fleetline, but this one's a Survivor, all original, and also owned by Wes Rydell. It's kind of hard not to make observations after seeing the work they've done on the one in the shop. It's neat though, because it is the same car. Like the car isn't lost in it, but it's.
I mean, look at that door in there. Look at this thing. It's for like Vern Troyer or something.
Yeah.
A little bitty door. But just the quarter area, and then obviously everything else. But
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
This is how forward the axle is in the wheel well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
troubling once you see how balanced that one is. You
How
know.
misproportioned the wheel well is to the tire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's a disaster.
Oh no. It's got to be square.
Yeah.
Make sure that mirror's square, guys.
Yeah. Well, you could fix your makeup in it too.
Yeah.
There we go.
Is that the way it goes?
I don't think it goes at all. Yeah, you were mentioning the side trim here. Ours
Yeah.
is shorter, but ours is also designed a little bit more like the 1940, which does actually kick back.
Right. Instead of go forward.
It doesn't smell like mice like a lot of the ones we get in the shop.
Looks like the parlor in an old, Victorian mansion
Yeah.
or something.
But a chandelier in there.
It wouldn't look out of place, would it?
Yeah, it's got a chandelier instead of a dome light.
Yeah, exactly.
It is cool that Wes has this in addition to that. Obviously, he wants to
Yeah.
save this the way that it
Yep.
is without cutting it up.
I wonder how much he's got to just love this car though to pay for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To invest all that time. I was just kind of picturing him sitting there staring at it. So the guys pushed our distinguished guest into the garage. And I went over to see how Adam was coming along with that pot metal grill piece mystery. Adam, you went a different route here.
I did, yeah.
That is impressive.
It turned out better than the pot metal piece.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just not worth the time and energy, right?
It's not. I mean, we have to balance, what the end result is versus the labor that gets there sometimes. And in this instance, that the pot metal was not welding very well. The shape of it, I had to cut it out of another one of these center spears, so it was actually a section higher. So I'd already cut it down the middle and welded it, and I was trying to manipulate it so that it would curl underneath the bottom of the grill, and the shape was just not turning out how I wanted it to. The original one here, this is the original piece. You can see it's a little bit shorter because we shortened the bottom of the grill up, and that splash pan would have cut across the bottom of this thing. And you can see how defined this shape is versus the other one.
Yeah.
Like I was talking before, it's just sort of lazy shape in comparison to this pot metal piece that's really
Definitely.
defined,
Yeah, so they kind of look motley anyway. Those two didn't really flow together nice like
Right.
that, but this looks like one of the paper thin stampings from the times of old, like an old stainless piece. It's really ornate.
Yeah.
I was looking at it yesterday. You've got a reverse curve bending against itself there. That's a challenge. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a small piece here, and I started just with a strip of steel and put that radius in it to match this, and then had to stretch the edges here on the independent pieces till it curled around, and then welded it down the center once that shape was where it needed to be. This is still pretty easy to plate, no harder than most anything else. They'll probably flash nickel it, and then it'll be coppered with this piece. And then both of these pieces will be bolted to the grill together, and then that copper will be sanded so that the finish is completely flat between the two.
So I can't say I blame him at all for going the route he chose. It's definitely the right move. And the outcome, of course, is a nearly seamless fix. I realize it's just a small component for the grill, but the amount of problem solving and craftsmanship that goes into a part like that It's just something that I can't ignore. It's important to note that every part of this car was given the same amount of thought. Adam even made the side view mirror stems by hand, painstakingly bending them to perfection. Looks like the guys are getting really close with the fleet line. And I don't know if you've ever watched the show before, but I do have a tendency to get a little sidetracked from the project that I'm following, especially if something's going for a ride.
Running down the road trying to loosen my load, like I said, rolling on my mind.
You know what? I always thought loosen my load meant something else, but I just realized he's talking about taking a dump.
He is gonna poopy.
In short, this 59 Cadillac owned by Randy Wilcox is absolutely stunning. The original designers of this car hit a home run. However, the materials they had available to them in 59 were nothing compared to what the Rad Rides crew was able to throw at this car. These cars were insanely detailed, and after working on a couple of them, you get a real respect for just how many parts and pieces comprise the overall makeup of this machine. The interior may very well be my favorite part of this car. When you combine the original pieces that have been refined with the CNC parts, the modern electronics, and the leatherwork, it comes together so beautifully it almost brings a tear to the eye. But pay special attention to the dash in this car. The dashes in these cars were extremely complicated. That's why they were originally cast out of a form of plastic. Now this one's leather covered. That'd be like taking a baseball glove and flipping it inside out without breaking any of the stitches to try and cover this thing. It's the ultimate Cadillac.
Oh, it is, man. It's not overdone. That's what I like about it. You know, like they're either black and red, hammered on the ground, air ride, too big of wheels. It's always something, it seems like.
Yeah, some flashy.
Yeah.
Troy definitely managed to get the perfect balance of maintaining the classic look and feel of this car while improving the performance. But it still seems really controlled and
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, it's not a big wishy-washy mess.
Right, and that's what I think most people associate the big cars with, and this just doesn't do that.
Got better shocks on it, obviously, and bigger sway bar in the front. That sure makes a difference. And I mean, no matter what you do with it, obviously, it's not an autocross car. Because if you went the route, and that's what me and Randy talked about in the beginning, is like, should we buy a chassis for it? I'm like, man, I wouldn't. It's a big car. Let's modify the stock one. I'll I did a ton of welding on it and all that. It normally has that stick weld down the top and bottom. So I cut all that out. We plated it all, made a nice looking thing out of it. Did the one-piece drive shaft, which is a must. And did all that stuff. If you'd have put a modern chassis on this with a coil over, you couldn't do nothing to make it. It'd be tight, like, oh yeah, you can go around a corner, but it would just
ruin the Cadillac.
You couldn't get that float out of it.
Yeah,
That's what this car is.
It ruined the Cadillac part about it.
Absolutely.
Big horn, big waves.
Yeah, man, what's that thing? Man, it's the Elvis Presley car. That's what Chief calls it.
Elvis Presley car?
I said, Chief, what do you call that? Elvis Presley car.
Perfect.
Can't argue with that. The outside styling was so extravagant on this year that all you really needed to do is tidy up all the gaps and edges, because, I mean, what are you going to do to this thing to change the outside of it? Would be just, you'd lose the whole car, it'd be a mess, and why? So we just concentrated on all the gaps, the quality of it, and then, obviously got in the drivetrain. The interior, we made huge improvements on the dash, the way that, these dash pads. I wish we had a stock one for you to look at, because this is all padded on a stock one. It's just terrible.
Oh, okay.
So Adam made all the dash pads and just the refinement of everything, and Lawrence made the steering wheel.
And it's certainly a group effort, but everything at Rad Rides is. But I couldn't believe how well this thing drove. There's one of these hanging up on like a turntable at the Hard Rock over at Universal Orlando. I don't know where they found it. It's something that I bet 99% of the public walks in and, wow, look at that Cadillac. But the worst way you can view a car is, as far as the bodywork's concerned, from when it's up in the air. It's just that's like the worst it can look. And that thing's spinning, it just makes me want to vomit.
Yeah. It's all full of dough.
Yeah, I'm trying to enjoy my beverage.
Yeah.
Can you get that thing out of here?
It's all full of dough.
You can see the mud all over the place in it. Yeah, it's awful. After getting in this 59, I'll have to say I'm never going to look at an old Cadillac the same. This is how they should be.
I had a guy at SEMA come up to me from Dubai or somewhere, and he's got 10 of them, and he wants to build this car. Modern drivetrain, just like this. Just loved it. While I was standing there, he called his guy back at home and said, "Hey, stop working on it." He's like, "I just stopped him because I know we'll never be able to get to this point, and this is what I want." So he asked me, "Hey, would you be interested in doing one?" And man, I politely told him, I'm like, "I'm not really interested. I've already done it. I love it, but I've already done it. I want to move on to something else, and they're so difficult.
Wow.
It's just like it's hard to turn loose guys that aren't. It's just a lot of messing around."
Not something you hear a lot of builders say, but when you build the best custom cars in the world, I guess you get to choose your projects. So this is the detail that most people would find fun. When I was talking about this car earlier, I kind of left out one thing. This car is packing a modern CTSV engine. With 640 horsepower on tap, this 5,500 pound car is surprisingly full of ass hauling.
And obviously, we haven't shaken it all down yet. It's only got a couple 100 miles on it, but right out of the box, it's pretty good.
I'd say.
So, it needs some fine tuning yet, but it's pretty darn good.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be afraid to, me and you just take off and drive cross country right now, obviously.
I like it when you say that, because one of these days it's going to happen.
Yeah, we're just going to keep going.
Get my chance.
Yeah.
But that good time's going to have to wait. I need to meet up with my old friend Rob McGaffin from Wheel Hub magazine before he starts shooting the 41.
You wearing your glasses on your shirt?
No. You don't make fun of me. So I started here in 2001, and we've known each other almost that whole time. When did you?
2004, I think, is when we finally first met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
How did that happen?
I ran into Troy at SEMA in 04. I went on my own. A friend of mine got me a pass. And I've been watching, I've seen everything from the Sniper, followed everything from Hot Rod Magazine, and watched Rides and all those shows and stuff, and I was a big fan. And I ran into him and Jack while I was walking around SEMA, and I said, "I'm going to try to build a portfolio, just come down anytime." So I started showing up here back in probably 05, 06.
Rob's been shooting hot rods around the country for over a decade, and he has quite a history with Troy, having done spreads on basically every car that's come out of the shop since 2010. It's beautiful stuff. It's a real, it goes hand in hand because you're shooting really high-end cars. You've been in the industry long enough that you get it, you know the people, and it's just such a joy because some people, I don't know, they only, their farts don't stink, right? They only like their own work.
Yeah.
I'm not that way at all. I really love, what is this? With big corporations turning their back on magazines in favor of the internet, it's nice to see that the people behind Wheel Hub magazine are not only dedicated to still giving you something you can hold in your hands, but something that just drips with quality. Did they end up restoring this thing?
They got it mechanically sound. They left it alone.
It's also great to see that the people behind Wheel Hub magazine care as much for the quality of their product as the people and cars that they're featuring. I get a big smile on my face every time I read through one of their periodicals, and I'm proud to put this on my coffee table. Makes me look like a big baller when people come over to visit. Troy made sure there was an original 41 on hand when it came to showing the A and B comparison between the 41 they created and what it came from. Troy knows that the only way to truly appreciate the amount of modifications that have been done to this car is to see it next to what it started as. Every panel has been modified to create the perfect modern embodiment of the original 41. How can you push a car to these extremes and still not lose what it looked like originally? Absolutely beautiful work.